Hello readers. Today's book is a book that you may have already read. Maybe your teacher has read it to you, or your librarian, or maybe even your parents. It's a very well-known book called Wilfred Gordon MacDonald Partridge by one of our really famous Australian authors, Mem Fox. Have you ever heard of the phrase, someone has lost their memory? What does that mean? Does it really mean they've left their memory somewhere and they can't find it? It just means that they've forgotten something. It's just a kind of a nice way to explain that they have no longer got the ability to remember. So have you ever had an experience with a grandparent or someone older in your family who is having problems with their memory? Well, this little boy lives next door to a retirement home, or it's called an old people's home in the book, and he has made great friends there. And so this story is about that little boy trying to help someone who's lost their memory. And it's very beautiful to think about different generations having friendships and working together. And there is lots of reasons people form friendships, and you might have something in common with someone who is way older than you or way younger than you. So this book is about memory loss, and it's also about young people and old people and how valuable we are to each other. I hope you love it. It's really beautiful. Wilfred Gordon MacDonald Partridge, written by Mem Fox, illustrated by Julie Vivas. Wilfred is a small boy who lives next door to an old people's home. He likes all the people who live there, but his favourite person of all is Miss Nancy Allison Delacourt Cooper, because she has 4 names just as he does. So when Wilfred discovers that Miss Nancy has lost her memory, it is only natural that he should set off to help her find it. It's an interesting choice by the artist to introduce us to the characters from behind, because we don't know them yet. There was once a small boy called Wilfred Gordon MacDonald Partridge, and what's more, he wasn't very old either. His house was next door to an old people's home, and he knew all the people who lived there. He liked Mrs. Jordan, who played the organ. He listened to Mr. Hoskins, who told him scary stories. He played with Mr. Tippett, who was crazy about cricket. He ran errands for Mrs. Mitchell, who walked with a wooden stick. He admired Mr. Drysdale, who had a voice like a giant. But his favourite person of all was Miss Nancy Allison Delacourt Cooper, because she had 4 names, just as he did. He called her Miss Nancy and told her all his secrets. One day, Wilfred Gordon heard his mother and father talking about Miss Nancy. "Poor old thing," said his mother. "Why is she a poor old thing?" asked Wilfred Gordon. "Because she's lost her memory," said his father. "It isn't surprising," said his mother. "After all, she is 96. "What's a memory?" asked Wilfred Gordon. He was always asking questions. "It's something you remember," said his father. But Wilfred Gordon wanted to know more, so he called on Mrs. Jordan, who played the organ. "What's a memory?" he asked. "Something warm, my child, something warm." He called on Mr. Hoskins, who told him scary stories. "What's a memory?" he asked. "Something from long ago, me lad. Something from long ago." He called on Mr. Tippet, who was crazy about cricket. "What's a memory?" he asked. "Something that makes you cry, my lad. Something that makes you cry." He called on Miss Mitchell, who walked with a wooden stick. "What's a memory?" he asked. "Something that makes you laugh, my darling. Something that makes you laugh." He called on Mr. Drysdale, who had a voice like a giant. "What's a memory?" he asked. "Something as precious as gold, young man. Something as precious as gold." So Wilfred Gordon went home again to look for memories for Miss Nancy, because she had lost her own. He looked for the shoebox of shells he had found long ago last summer and gently put them in a basket. He found the puppet on strings, which always made everybody laugh. He remembered with sadness the medal which his grandfather had given him, and he placed it gently next to the shells. Next he found his football, which was as precious as gold. And last of all, on his way to Miss Nancy's, he went into the hen house and took a warm, fresh egg from under a hen. Then Wilfred Gordon called on Miss Nancy and gave her each thing one by one. "What a dear strange child to bring me all these wonderful things," thought Miss Nancy. Then she started to remember. She held the warm egg and told Wilfred Gordon about the tiny speckled blue eggs she had once found in a bird's nest in her aunt's garden. She put a shell to her ear and remembered going to a beach by tram long ago, and how hot she felt in her button-up boots. She touched the metal and talked sadly of her big brother she had loved, who had gone to war and never returned. She smiled at the puppet on strings and remembered the one she had shown to her sister, and how she laughed with a mouthful of porridge. She bounced the football to Wilfred Gordon and remembered the day she had met him and all the secrets they had told. And the two of them smiled and smiled, because Miss Nancy's memory had been found by a small boy who wasn't very old either. I hope you liked the story of Wilfred Gordon MacDonald Partridge and all that he did to help Miss Nancy. Maybe you have a grandma or a member of your family that's lost their memory or having trouble remembering some things. What would you give them to help them to remember? When my grandma sees something in her house, like a vase or a toy or a picture, or an artwork that one of her grandchildren have done, she always starts to tell stories about it. You probably even keep some things to help you remember the things that have happened in your life. I hope you love this book, and I hope to see you again